What if the guilt you feel about losing friends isn't your conscience speaking? It's your old identity trying to keep you small. Because here's what nobody tells you about spiritual awakening. The people who knew you best will become the hardest to be around. Not because they're toxic, not because you're better than them, but because your nervous system literally can't handle the frequency mismatch anymore. The people who knew you best suddenly feel like strangers. Conversations that used to flow now feel forced. Inside jokes don't land anymore. You find yourself making excuses to avoid hangouts you used to look forward to. And the worst part? You feel guilty about it. These are good people. They haven't done anything wrong. They've been loyal, supportive, and present. So why does being around them feel like you're suffocating? Here's the truth that will set you free. You're not becoming cold or judgmental. You're not abandoning anyone. Your frequency shifted, and most relationships can't keep up. Today, I'm revealing the spiritual reason friendships dissolve during awakening, the 3 types of friendships and which ones survive frequency shifts, and how to honor old connections while creating space for new ones without guilt destroying you. Because you're not losing friends. You're finding your frequency, family. And that's not betrayal. That's evolution. Let me explain what's actually happening in your body when you can't relate to old friends anymore. Every relationship is built on shared frequency. You became friends because you operated at similar vibrational levels. You had compatible interests, similar values, matching energy. The relationship felt easy because your frequencies were aligned. But here's what frequency actually means physically, because this isn't abstract spiritual theory. This is nervous system science. You know that feeling when you're in a loud restaurant and the noise feels like it's in your chest? That pressure, that static, that exhaustion building behind your eyes. Frequency mismatch feels exactly like that. You're sitting across from someone you love, and there's this invisible static between you. Your nervous system is working overtime, trying to tune to their frequency while maintaining your own. You're subconsciously matching their energy, their pace, their emotional range, just to stay connected. By the end of the conversation, you're physically drained. That's not psychology, that's energetics. During spiritual awakening, your frequency changes. Not just your beliefs or interests, but your actual vibrational output, the energetic signature your nervous system broadcasts. You're processing reality differently, perceiving experiences through new filters, operating from expanded consciousness. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. You're with your best friend from college. You're talking about work, family, normal stuff. But you notice something. They're complaining about the same problems they complained about 6 months ago. Same boss issues, same relationship pattern, same financial stress. Old you would have commiserated, shared your own similar struggles, bonded over mutual frustration. New you sees the pattern they're avoiding. You see the belief system creating the problem. You see the growth opportunity they keep refusing. And you can't unsee it. That's not judgment. That's expanded perception. Your consciousness literally processes information differently now. So you try to share what you see, gently, supportively, and they look at you like you've started speaking another language. They change the subject. Or worse, they get defensive. Tell you you're being too intense or overthinking things. That moment, right there, that's frequency mismatch showing itself. Your friends who aren't awakening remain at the frequency where your friendship was built. They haven't changed, but you have. And now there's a gap between your frequencies that makes the connection difficult. This feels like betrayal because nobody's at fault. They didn't abandon you. You didn't outgrow them due to their flaws. The relationship was real and meaningful. It's just complete now because you're no longer vibrational matches. Here's why this is so painful. You still love these people. You still care about them. You still remember the connection you had. But when you're together now, you have to work to relate. Conversations feel superficial. You can't share what you're actually experiencing because they won't understand. You find yourself performing the old version of yourself to make them comfortable, laughing at jokes that aren't funny to you anymore, pretending to care about topics that feel irrelevant now, downplaying your spiritual experiences because you know they'll worry or judge. That performance is exhausting, and eventually it becomes impossible. You start declining invitations, making excuses, creating distance, not because you don't care, but because maintaining the connection requires abandoning your authenticity, and your soul won't let you do that anymore. The guilt comes from feeling like you're choosing your spiritual journey over your friendships, like you're being selfish by not staying who you were for the sake of connection. But here's what that guilt is actually protecting: your old identity. And your soul knows that identity has to die for you to live. You can't actually stay who you were. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. Trying to resurrect it for friendship's sake is dishonest to both of you. Friendship based on you pretending to be someone you're not isn't friendship, it's performance. And your awakened consciousness can't sustain that level of performance without making you sick. Not all friendships end during awakening. Understanding these three types helps you discern which relationships are meant to evolve and which are meant to complete. The first type, activity-based friendships. These are relationships built around shared activities, hobbies, or life circumstances. You became friends because you worked together, attended the same school, shared a hobby, or lived in the same place. Activity-based friendships are beautiful and meaningful, but they live in a specific container. They thrive within particular circumstances. When the container dissolves, you quit the job, leave the city, stop drinking, lose interest in the hobby, the friendship usually dissolves too. And here's what makes this okay. These friendships served their purpose perfectly. They gave you a connection during a specific phase of life. They weren't meant to last forever. They were meant to be precisely what they were when they were. During awakening, you lose interest in many old activities. The hobbies that bonded you no longer appeal. The lifestyle you shared no longer fits. The context that created the friendship dissolves. These friendships usually end gently if you let them. There's no conflict, no betrayal. Just a gradual distance as the shared ground disappears. You can appreciate what these friendships gave you without trying to force them to continue beyond their natural completion. But here's what nobody tells you about activity-based friendships. Some of them were never really about the activity at all. Some of them were soul connections disguised as circumstantial relationships. And those? Those transform instead of ending. The second type, identity-based friendships. These are relationships built around shared identity. You became friends because you identified the same way. Same career field, same life stage. Same values or beliefs. Same struggles or challenges. Identity-based friendships are deeper than activity-based because they're rooted in who you are, not just what you do. You don't just share activities, you share worldview, life approach, core values. But during awakening, your identity changes. The person you identified as no longer exists. The values you shared no longer organize your life. The struggles that bonded you no longer define you. When your identity shifts, these friendships strain. Your friends still identify the way you used to. They expect you to maintain that shared identity. When you evolve beyond it, they feel abandoned or betrayed. Not because you did anything wrong, but because the foundation of the relationship was a shared identity that you no longer inhabit. I had a friend, let's call her Sarah, who I'd known since college. Started as activity-based program when we were in the same program. Became identity-based when we both got married young. For 10 years we bonded over being the married friends in our single friend group. We shared recipes, complained about in-laws, talked about the houses we'd buy and the kids we'd have. Our entire friendship was built on this shared identity of young married women building traditional lives. Then I left my marriage during my awakening. And suddenly, Sarah didn't know how to relate to me anymore. Every conversation, she'd try to advise on fixing my marriage. Couldn't hear me when I said it wasn't broken. It was complete. She'd talk about her husband, then apologize awkwardly. She'd invite me to couples events, then rescind the invitation because it would be weird. That's when I realized she didn't need me to be happy. She needed me to stay in the identity we built together. Our friendship wasn't about me as a person. It was about me as a reflection of her choices. When I stopped reflecting those choices back to her, she experienced it as rejection. But I wasn't rejecting her. I was releasing an identity that was suffocating me. And she couldn't separate me from that identity because the identity was the bond. These friendships require more active completion because there's emotional investment. You need to have honest conversations. Acknowledge that you've changed. Release expectations of who you'll be for each other. Some identity-based friendships transform. Your friend does their own identity work and you reconnect on new ground. But most don't. Most complete because the shared identity was the bond, and without it, there's no foundation. The third type, soul-based friendships. These are relationships built on soul recognition. You became friends because your souls knew each other. The connection transcended circumstances, activities, or identities. You could be completely different people and still feel deeply bonded. Soul-based friendships survive frequency shifts. Not always easily, and not always continuously, but they endure. Because the bond isn't circumstantial or conditional. It's essential. These friendships might go through periods of distance during awakening. You might not talk for months or years because you're on different timelines. But when you reconnect, the depth is still there. The recognition remains. You can tell a soul-based friendship because it feels easy, even when it's complicated. You can disagree, grow in different directions, even hurt each other, and the bond doesn't break. There's a baseline trust that transcends circumstances. Soul-based friendships are rare. Most people have 1 to 3 in their lifetime. Everyone else is activity-based or identity-based, and that's not a problem. Those friendships serve important purposes, even when they don't last forever. The pain of awakening isn't that soul-based friendships end. It's realizing that most of your friendships were either activity or identity-based, and that you're losing them all at once. Think about your current friendships. Which category do they fall into? Activity-based, identity-based, or soul-based? Comment soul, identity, or activity based on which friendship type you're grieving most. This awareness helps you understand what you're actually losing and what might return. Now that you understand which type of friendship you're in, here's how to tell if it's reaching natural completion rather than just hitting a rough patch. Because this distinction matters, rough patches can be worked through. Completions need to be honored. The first sign is obvious: consistent effort without reward. You keep trying to connect, and it keeps feeling forced. Conversations don't flow naturally. Plans feel like obligations. You leave interactions feeling drained rather than energized. In healthy friendships, going through challenges, effort creates breakthroughs. You work through misunderstandings and feel closer afterward. In complete friendships, effort just exhausts both people without deepening the connection. But here's the subtle sign most people miss: inability to be authentic. You find yourself editing what you say, avoiding topics that matter to you, performing the version of yourself they expect. You can't share what you're actually experiencing because they won't understand or will judge it. When you can't be yourself in a friendship, the friendship isn't serving its purpose. Connection requires authenticity. Performance isn't a connection, and your body knows this, which brings us to the third sign: frequency fatigue. After spending time with this person, you feel physically tired. Your energy drops. You need alone time to recover. Your nervous system needs time to recalibrate to your natural frequency. This isn't about them being difficult or draining. It's about your frequencies no longer harmonizing like two radio stations trying to play through one speaker. The static is exhausting, even when the content is benign. And if you're experiencing frequency fatigue, there's usually a deeper pattern underneath that confirms the friendship is complete. Values divergence. You used to share core values. Now you're operating from completely different frameworks. What matters to you doesn't matter to them. What they prioritize feels irrelevant to you. You're not just disagreeing on specifics. You're living from different paradigms entirely. They value security. You value growth. They value comfort. You value truth. They value fitting in. You value authenticity. Neither is wrong. But you can't build deep friendship across paradigm differences. The fifth sign: one-sided relationship. You're doing all the work to maintain connection. You're the one reaching out, suggesting plans, trying to bridge the gap. They're passively receiving your effort without reciprocating. They might care about you, but they're not invested in adapting to who you've become. They want the friendship to stay what it was, and they're waiting for you to return to who you were. Friendships require mutual investment. When only one person is trying, the friendship is already functionally over. And the sign that confirms it's truly over: relief when plans cancel. You make plans with this person and secretly hope something comes up so you don't have to go. When plans cancel, you feel relieved rather than disappointed. That's your soul speaking. That's your system telling you the relationship is complete. If 3 or more of these signs are present, the friendship has reached completion. Fighting to maintain it creates suffering for both people. If you recognized 3 or more of those signs, I need you to hear this. You have permission to stop trying. You have permission to feel relief instead of sadness. You have permission to protect your energy even if it disappoints good people. Your spiritual evolution is not up for negotiation. The guilt you feel, it's because you're a good person who values loyalty. But that guilt is trying to keep you trapped in relationships that are literally draining your life force to maintain an identity that no longer exists. Your soul is wiser than your guilt. So how do you actually release friendships that are complete without burning bridges or drowning in guilt? Here's what I've learned. Completion doesn't require confrontation. It requires honesty, first internally, then externally when possible. First, permission. Acknowledge the completion internally. Stop trying to force a connection that isn't there. Stop feeling obligated to maintain friendships past their expiration. Permit yourself to let this relationship be what it was without needing it to be more. This is internal work. You're not announcing anything. You're just getting honest with yourself about what's true. The relationship was beautiful. It served its purpose. It's complete now. All three of those things can be true simultaneously. Second, permission. Communicate honestly when it's safe to do so. Notice I said when it's safe, because not all friendships allow for honest conversations about completion. Some people will react defensively. Some will try to convince you you're wrong. Some will make you the villain for growing. But when honest conversation is possible, it creates clean closure for both people. You can say something like, "Our friendship has meant so much to me, and I'm grateful for everything we've shared. I'm going through major changes, and I'm not the same person I was when we became friends. I think we need different things now, and I want to honor that rather than pretending nothing's shifted." This isn't blame. It's an acknowledgement. You're not making them wrong. You're naming what's true. If honest conversation isn't possible, create distance naturally without dramatic announcements. Let the friendship fade rather than forcing a definitive ending. And here's what makes this bearable. Understanding that friendship has seasons. Third, permission. Release guilt by honoring friendship seasons. Some friendships are meant for specific phases of life. They serve their purpose during that phase and naturally complete when you move to the next one. This doesn't diminish their value. It honors their purpose. You don't owe people lifetime commitment just because you were close at one point. Circumstances change. People evolve, friendships complete. That's normal and healthy. Gardens have seasons. Relationships have seasons. Trying to keep summer flowers alive through winter doesn't honor the flowers. It works against natural cycles. Fourth, permission. Let people be where they are without making them wrong. Your friends aren't bad people because they didn't evolve with you. They're on their own timeline. Their path is different from yours. You can release the friendship without judging them. The ego wants to justify friendship endings by making the other person wrong. It's easier to leave if they're flawed. But awakening asks you to release without needing justification. You can honor what was while accepting it's complete. Both things at the same time. Which brings us to the hardest part of this process. Fifth, permission. Create space for new connections without forcing them. As old friendships fall away, you'll experience loneliness. That void feels terrifying. You'll be tempted to fill it quickly, jump into new groups, force connections, settle for surface relationships just to not feel alone. Don't. That loneliness is sacred. It's uncomfortable but temporary. Your soul is clearing space for frequency-aligned connections. If you fill that space with the wrong people out of desperation, you'll have to clear it again later. New friendships form naturally when you're being authentic. You don't have to search desperately. Just be yourself in the world and let resonant people find you. Sixth, permission. Leave relationships open to future reconnection. Some friendships need distance before they can reconnect. You might release a friendship now and rediscover it years later when you're both at new frequencies. Don't burn bridges just to feel decisive. Don't make dramatic exits to convince yourself you're done. Let relationships be complete with love, which means leaving them open to transformation if it's meant to happen. Release doesn't mean destruction. It means loosening your grip. If you're currently letting a friendship complete, if you're grieving the loss of someone who was important to you, comment "releasing" below. Sometimes naming what we're moving through helps us move through it with less resistance. Section 5. Finding your frequency family. Now let's talk about what comes after the old friendships fall away. Because you're not meant to be alone forever, humans are social beings even during awakening. But you're meant to connect with people who match your actual frequency, not your past frequency. Your frequency family isn't found through searching. It's found through being authentic. When you stop performing old versions of yourself and start expressing what you actually think, feel, and experience, you naturally attract people who resonate with that frequency. This doesn't mean you need to find people at your exact stage of awakening. It means you need people who honor authenticity, depth, and growth, who doesn't need you to stay small so they can stay comfortable. Your frequency family might be one person, might be 3, might be 10. Quality matters infinitely more than quantity. One soul-level friend is worth 100 surface connections. And these relationships feel different from your old friendships. There's less performance, more presence. Less small talk, more depth. Less judgment, more curiosity. You can be exactly who you are without editing or explaining. They might not understand everything you're experiencing, but they respect your journey. They might not share your exact beliefs, but they honor your process. They see you clearly and love what they see. Finding these people requires vulnerability. You have to let yourself be seen in your weirdness, your intensity, your confusion, your expansion. That's scary after spending years performing acceptable versions of yourself. But that vulnerability is magnetic to the right people. Your frequency family is looking for you just as much as you're looking for them. Your authenticity is the beacon that helps them find you. When you hide who you've become, you make yourself invisible to the people who are meant to find you. Be patient with this process. Frequency-aligned friendships might not form immediately. You might be in the void for a while, feeling isolated and alone. That's part of the recalibration. Your soul is upgrading your capacity for relationships, teaching you what real connection feels like, preparing you for friendships that actually nourish rather than drain. The void isn't punishment, it's preparation. When the right people appear, you'll know. The connection will feel easy in a way that your old friendships no longer do. The depth will be natural, not forced. You'll leave interactions feeling energized, not depleted. Conversations will flow without performance. Silences will feel comfortable instead of awkward. You'll disagree without disconnecting. You'll challenge each other without threatening each other. That's what frequency-aligned friendship feels like. And once you experience it, you'll understand why all those other friendships had to complete. Because they were taking up space that needed to be cleared for this. Trust that your frequency family exists. They're out there, living authentically, waiting for someone who can match their depth. You finding each other is inevitable once you stop hiding who you've become. Let me bring this full circle. Remember that guilt I talked about at the beginning? That crushing feeling that you're betraying people who've been good to you? That guilt was your old identity trying to keep you small. Because your old identity knew that if you let these friendships complete, you'd have to inhabit who you've become fully. And that's terrifying. But here's what's more terrifying. Spending the rest of your life performing an identity that died years ago just to maintain connections that drain you. You're not cold for releasing friendships that no longer fit. You're not selfish for prioritizing your frequency over people's comfort. You're not betraying anyone by honoring who you've become. You're evolving. And evolution requires letting go of what doesn't match your new reality. The friendships you're losing were real and meaningful. They served their purpose beautifully. Honor what they gave you while accepting their completion. The friendships that are meant to stay will stay. The friendships that need to transform will transform. The new friendships that match your current frequency will appear. You're not meant to carry relationships from every phase of your life forever. You're meant to let connections flow naturally, completing when they're complete, deepening when they're meant to deepen, beginning when the timing is right. In the comments, share one thing you wish you could tell old friends who don't understand why you've changed. Articulating what we can't say directly helps us release it internally. If this video helped you feel less guilty about outgrowing relationships, subscribe for more content on navigating awakening's challenging phases. My next video explores why old friends feel like strangers. Still, complete strangers suddenly feel like family. The quantum entanglement that connects your frequency, family across time and space before you ever meet them in physical reality. The people who can't grow with you aren't meant to. The people who are meant for you will find you. Let the old friendships be complete. Your frequency family is waiting.